The man to the left represents critical race theory. He represents prejudice. He represents lumping every single person into a racial box and then assigning either virtue or hindrance to that group. Now, Marc Lamont Hill, he's well-known leftist. He is a scholar. He is the same person who went on Candace Owens' show and he said men can have babies. So take it for what it is. But Marc Lamont Hill is one of many advocates who are pushing for critical race theory widespread in the school system. Christopher Ruffo, the man to the right, is the opposite. He is a person who represents individualism. He is a person who stands against all forms of racism, including anti-white, which critical race theory produces. And he is a man who says, you know what, I want to judge and I want to assess people on the basis of individual merit. Now, what you guys are going to see in this clip is how those two visions clash. But at the end of the day, from what I gather, Christopher Ruffo gives us the blueprint, the template to talk to radical leftists like Marc Lamont Hill, state our case, don't get caught up in the race baiting, because that is what he is about to do, and come out on the other end with your dignity intact and your viewpoint well articulated. Before we jump into this video, guys, make sure you join the journey to 5,000 subs. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're notified anytime I make a video. And guys, let's jump into this. I'm gonna let it play for a little bit and I'm gonna give some commentary after a couple minutes, but take a listen to Marc Lamont Hill, the man to the left, ask Christopher Ruffo, what do you like about being white, sir? What is so good about whiteness? Can you name one thing that's positive about whiteness? Take a listen to this.
And if I were to say to you right now, Christopher, what do you like about being white? What would you say?
I don't know. Again, it's such an amorphous term. It's like a census term or a
but can you do me a favor? Indulge me for one. We're running out of time. Indulge me for a minute. I understand you see it as all these things, but you surely recognize that the world sees you as white. You know the world reads you as white. And if you were to ask me some things I like about being Black, I could talk about cultural norms. I could talk about tradition. I could talk about the kind of commonalities I feel around the diaspora. If I were to ask you what, particularly if you're saying whiteness is a thing that is being constructed as negative and shouldn't be, name something positive that you like about being white.
Well, sure. I'll answer with a thing. There's a lot of documents that are floating around public schools that say things like timeliness, showing up on time, is a white supremacist value or a white value, white dominant value. Things like rationality, things like the Enlightenment, things like objectivity, and these are very strange things to be ascribed to a racial identity. My view is that these are actually should be ascribed to every individual human being. Every individual human being, regardless of whatever racial category we impose on them.
Christopher, that doesn't answer the question, though. You're telling me you're making straw men about things that are ascribed to whiteness that you think are wrongfully ascribed to whiteness. I'm saying if whiteness isn't a negative thing, and there's something that that whiteness actually shouldn't be constructed as all negative, name something positive about that you believe is positive about being white.
Again, I don't buy into the framework that the world can be reduced into these metaphysical categories of whiteness and blackness. I think that's wrong. I think we should look at people as individuals. I think we should celebrate different people's accomplishments. And again, I think the idea you mentioned Ignatieff says the goal is to, quote, abolish the white race. In any other context, this would be interpreted as a near genocidal slur. I don't buy into it. The reason I'm not going to answer your question is I reject that categorization. I think of myself as an individual human being with my own capabilities. And Amen. I would hope that we could both judge each other as individuals and come to common values on that basis.
Amen.
Fair enough. I would argue, though, that the ability to say, I don't see race, I don't recognize or own whiteness is an extraordinarily white thing to be able to do. It's
wow. So you guys see that. Let me pause right there. He says the ability to not see race, basically the ability to be colorblind, is a very white thing to do. Now, what I don't understand is I, as a brown skinned, go ahead, take a look at me. If you haven't looked at any of my other videos, as a brown skinned young Hispanic male, I identify with what Christopher Ruffo is saying. I want to be treated as an individual. I want to treat you as an individual. I don't want to account for race in how I treat you. And yet, Marc Lamont Hill says to Christopher Ruffo, that's a very white thing to say. So the thing that makes me pause and think is, well, what if I said that like I just did? Am I just regurgitating a white thought, if there is such a thing? Because according to Marc Lamont Hill, there are things known as white thought, black thought. And what Christopher Ruffo just said was a white thought. I wonder what he thinks about people of color, even though white is a color. What does he think about people like us who subscribe wholly to what Christopher Ruffo is talking about? Let's finish this up.
It's an exercise of power and privilege. You can ignore the label of whiteness and still be able to enjoy all the spoils of whiteness. If I say I'm not black, I don't see race, I still can't get the cab. I still work harder for less money. I still don't live as long. I still get longer prison sentences.
Yeah, so this guy is immensely rich, and he's over here talking about, I still don't make enough money. This man right here, he is one of the richest leftists you will ever see. But of course, when they talk about this subject, it's always about somebody else's poverty. It's never their own. It's never their own because they are well off. They're always talking about somebody else's problems. Oh, I can't get the cab. You don't drive a cab. You probably whip a Mercedes Benz around. My goodness.
Still more likely to be executed if I'm convicted of a crime. I'm still more likely to die of COVID. I'm still more likely to get suspended in school. I'm still.
Gosh, he just keeps. So now at this point, he's just going to keep going on. All the comorbidities about COVID, these type of people, leftists, want to make it a race issue. Like Anthony Fauci said, we're revoking his doctor from him. Anthony Fauci wanted to talk about COVID-19 being evidence of systemic racism, but at the end of the day, if a group of people, I don't care what color they are, have an obesity problem, it's not because of racism. Nobody forced you to overeat. Okay, if you have hypertension because you eat too much, it's not the white man's fault, even though Marc Lamont Hill would say it is.
Less likely to get pain medication in a hospital. The idea of saying that I don't see my whiteness, I don't recognize whiteness is something we can say, but to me, that is just as fantastic. It is just as unimaginably unrealistic in real life as the very things you're criticizing. So to that extent, it's why we need critical race theory. We need to expose whiteness. We need to talk about race, and we need to talk about a racial construct. And your uneasiness or unwillingness, which I respect fully, and I mean that sincerely, to not own whiteness or to not even take on whiteness as part of your identity is something that you can do, because you can say, you know what, I'm Italian. You know what, I have a family history. But as a black person who's had those things taken, as a black person who was kidnapped from Africa, or my ancestors were, I don't have that luxury. I'm born into a tradition where all those things were taken away and melded together. Critical race theory is trying to expose that and talk about the intractability of it. The intractability of racism, the inability of this nation to come to terms with that is why we need critical race theory in schools. Anyway, I got to take a break. Christopher, I promise you can come back. I appreciate you. It was a great conversation. Thank you for joining me. And everybody, stay with us. Let us know what you think about this conversation. Much.
All right. So, yeah, I honestly thought if you guys are looking to be educated on both sides, all right, because he is a leading thinker in critical race theory and promoting it. He is a leading thinker in standing against critical race theory. I think watching this in its entirety would be of much value for anyone. So after this exchange, Christopher Ruffo took to Twitter and he shared this with us, and I thought it was very timely, and it captured what Christopher Ruffo was able to accomplish during that discourse. He says critical race theory is a supremacist ideology ascribing all positive traits to blackness and all negative traits to whiteness. Okay, Christopher, so what's the solution? Here it is. Reject the premise of race essentialism in all of its forms. Stop using crude racial labels and pejoratives to demonize individuals. Now, guys, this right here hits the nail on the head. The reason why Christopher Ruffo did not want to answer the question when Marc Lamont Hill was asking him, okay, so you're saying there's a whole lot of negative connotations around the word whiteness. Can you offer a positive example of what whiteness brings? That is race. He was race baiting him. He was trying to get him to speak the language of a critical race theory and give value and merit to race first and foremost. Christopher Ruffo did not do that because he didn't play the games of, well, this is what having white skin gave me. No, because it's all about individualism. It is not about what color you are. And that is what Christopher Ruffo was getting at. It doesn't matter your color. It matters your deeds. It doesn't matter your color. What matters is the life choices that you make. Yes, we can acknowledge the fact that racism was a wretched sin and scar in America's history. But guys, today in America, the land of opportunity for all people, black, brown, and white, we cannot move forward in this false racist supremacist ideology known as critical race theory and try to reorient our thinking, try to brainwash our children to separate themselves in power classes. Oh, you're white, therefore you should sit over here and understand that you are an oppressor to that kid over there who's brown from India. No, guys, we have to reject it at all costs, because really lies that are pushed mainstream do so much damage, and a lie left unchecked is still a lie, but it is capable of doing even more damage if we don't fight against it. I'm gonna leave that right there. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Let me know what you guys think about the commentary. Let me know what you guys think about critical race theory and my comments regarding this issue. What do you agree with or disagree with Marc Lamont Hill? And likewise, what do you agree with or disagree with Christopher Ruffo? At the end of the day, I thought it was a great discussion that I benefited from. Before I get off of here, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and share this video. I would appreciate that much. As always, guys, I will see you good people on the next one. God bless. Peace.